Well, Wynn and MGM are on the move today on the back of earnings as investors await the big game between the Chiefs and the Eagles, with a record 50.4 million people expected to wager a total of $16 billion on this year's Super Bowl. That's according to the American Gaming Association. Well, for more on what gaming companies should expect, we've got Macquarie Group Senior Analyst Chad Beynon. Thank you for joining me this morning, Chad. So a lot of people wondering, should we still be betting on the gaming industry when you look at these earnings results, especially for Wynn and MGM?
Thanks, Rochelle. Thanks for having me. Yeah, jackpots across the board in gaming. You have Las Vegas that's setting all-time records. We heard about that last night from earnings calls, as you mentioned, from Wynn and MGM, who've seen hotel rates up anywhere between 30 and 50% versus pre-pandemic. So clearly the leisure in Las Vegas traveler is very strong. Secondly, you have Macau starting to recover. You know, China was essentially closed for 2 years, more than what we saw in other developed markets, and that's starting to come around. And then, more importantly, this weekend you have sports betting. You know, as we think about where we want to place our bets, so to speak, we still really like sports betting and iGaming. In the fourth quarter, volumes were up about 70% year over year. The big driver of this is population allowability. So last year for the Super Bowl, a little under 50% of the US could legally bet on the big game. This weekend, it'll be about 55 to 57%. So you have new states like Ohio, Maryland, Kansas, and then up north in Ontario, they'll be able to do so. So we still really like the space. You were just talking about technology. That's kind of been a big thing. Huge technology advancements in sports betting, and I think you'll see that in the product this weekend if you're in a market that permits that.
And as we mentioned, some of these new players who have come in now, as we have more states coming online with sports betting, what does that mean, though, for the future growth of an MGM or a Wynn when you do have some of these other players coming in as well?
Sure. I guess, you know, the two drivers are obviously, you know, new states. California was a big one. Many of us were hoping for back in November. They had a state referendum, which was voted down. You know, some of the biggest states in the United States, California, Florida, and Texas, you still can't legally bet on sports betting. So those will be catalysts over the next couple of years. And then the other thing is just, you know, higher engagement and more spending and kind of broadening out the audience. Currently, about 7% of Americans have these apps on their phones, the DraftKings, the Caesars, the MGM, the FanDuel, and the like. And a big goal for these companies is to you know, promote and induce some of the casual bettors who aren't maybe focusing on every game throughout a night or a week, but maybe, you know, engage with their apps a little less frequently, obviously expanding into the female population. Sports betting historically is over 80% male engagement. So that's a big thing. We expect some pretty heavy marketing during the Super Bowl. World Cup was a nice customer acquisition period, and we expect the same for the Super Bowl this weekend.
And you mentioned the World Cup. They're obviously a global event, but when you look at something like the Super Bowl, what are some of the edge that some of these companies can have when you really do have a very targeted sort of sporting event?
Yeah, the big thing that we've seen since sports betting started in the U.S., a little bit more widespread about 4 years ago versus today, is the in-play betting, the different prop bets that you'll see. You know, historically, you would see some of these for the Super Bowl, but now you're seeing them for every game. So the menu of options is much greater. So if you're an Eagles fan, you can wager that, you know, Jalen Hurts will complete 20 completions and A.J. Brown will have a touchdown. So you can parlay some of these player bets. And then obviously, if you're a Chiefs fan, you could do the same for Mahomes and Kelsey and the like. And these are the things that are really driving engagement. It's actually a higher hold rate for the sports books. So they like people to wager on these types of things versus just the straight up spread for the game. And then also in-game betting. So if, you know, the Eagles score on their first drive, you might see that Chiefs line move pretty strongly in the first couple minutes. And if you're a big Chiefs fan, maybe you decide to kind of double down. So there's just more engagement, a bigger menu of options. And we think that'll be something that we're excited to see this weekend. And that'll continue as we get past NFL into NBA, NHL playoffs, and then into baseball, which historically is a low seasonal sports betting season, but you'll be able to bet on each pitch, each outcome of the batter, and that'll, again, improve engagement.
Indeed, because not everyone is into some of these major bets, but some of the more fun, creative sides of betting, you definitely will tend to get more people. It's a more social event that way. Great stuff there. Chad Beynon, Macquarie Group Senior Analyst, thank you for your time.